Did you ever notice that Scar, the obvious antagonist of the Lion King movie, never had a mate or cubs? A striking absence for a lion who fought so hard for power. And before we go any further, we need to clear up one of the biggest misconceptions in Lion King fandom, and that is, Kovu is not Scar's biological son. Many fans connect Kovu to Scar because of his darker coloring, his role in The Lion King 2, and his position as Scar's successor. But canonically, he wasn't biologically fathered by Scar at all. Zero chose him, shaping him into a symbolic heir after Scar's death, not a genetic one. With Kovu's true lineage still a mystery, Scar's absence from the Pride's bloodline becomes even more striking. It isn't just that he died without descendants, it's that he left no biological imprint on a future he once tried to control. From a purely biological standpoint, male lions are driven by one central instinct: to reproduce and create a lineage. But Scar is the singular lion in the entire Lion King franchise who actively rejects this role. And this isn't because he was incapable. While some fan theories speculate he may have been sick or physically weakened due to his gaunt appearance, none of that is supported by canon. The lore gives us no indication that Scar was infertile or biologically unable to have cubs. Instead, the deeper truth is much more interesting. Scar was simply opposed to fatherhood because of his rejection to the Circle of Life. In other words, he rejected the Circle of Life not just symbolically, but functionally as well. And the reason why? He viewed the Circle of Life not through the lens of balance and something to maintain, but rather as something that needed to be dominated and controlled. Producing heirs would require participating in the very system he aims to undermine, a system built on values he spent his life rejecting. His purpose within the narrative is to rupture the Circle of Life, not contribute to it. And from a storytelling perspective, giving Scar cubs would blur that symbolism, connecting him to a generational chain he is meant to stand apart from. From my perspective as a lifelong Lion King fan, this genetic pride theory makes the most structural sense. When I look at Scar's psychology, his choices, and the symbolism in his scenes, everything points to a lion who has no space in his mind for creating offspring. He's far too focused on trying to dominate the Circle of Life to contribute to it. And not only did Scar's mindset and worldview likely play a major role in why he never had a mate or cubs, but examining how real prides function reveals another layer to the issue. Even if Scar had wanted offspring, the lionesses themselves likely would not have chosen him as a potential mate. And the reason why? Because even though Scar could potentially seize the throne, he was not able to seize respect, and lionesses chose based on strength and stability, or in other words, competence. One of the clearest examples of this dynamic appears in the original Lion King during Scar's confrontation with Sarabi after taking over the Pride Lands. Despite holding the highest position of power, Scar commands no genuine loyalty from the lionesses, not even from the queen herself. Sarabi openly challenges him, refusing to accept his authority, and the other lionesses stand firmly behind her. And the moment Simba returns, Scar's already fragile control shatters. The lionesses do not hesitate. They immediately turn on him, and not out of allegiance to Simba alone, but because Scar had never earned their respect in the first place. His rule was tolerated, but definitely not supported. And even though this is a fictional universe, Disney actually wrote the lionesses in The Lion King with pretty solid biological accuracy. In lion society, females select mates primarily based on males' dominance and territorial control, since both directly impact the resources and protection available for raising cubs, which, yes, Scar technically did have in that movie at that time, but notably, that doesn't always correlate with perceived competence. Other factors include the male's perceived strength and ability to defend the pride, quality Scar failed to demonstrate through his self-focused behavior and lack of genuine protection for the pride. Interestingly, in the wild, lionesses often prefer larger, darker-maned males. Again, a trait Scar technically has, but even that wasn't enough. Despite his darker mane, the lionesses could sense the weakness beneath his perceived power. In other words, another factor that influenced Scar not having a mate or cubs was because the lionesses themselves select based on competence, not fake dominance. The lionesses were not impressed by Scar's crown or his position as king. Instead, they saw a male who couldn't hunt, a leader who couldn't secure food, a ruler who allowed hyenas to overrun the territory, and ultimately a king whose governance pushed the Pride Lands into famine. While Scar held the title, he lacked the qualities that truly matter in lion society, where females respond to real-world capability rather than hierarchy. Even when it came to Zira herself, the one lioness who seemed nearly obsessed with Scar, even though she admired Scar and worshipped his ideology, she is still only framed as a follower, not a mate. And the main reason this distinction likely occurred was because Scar inspires loyalty through manipulation, not partnership. And that paradox is exactly why he was never able to secure a mate to begin with, even with the one who was literally obsessed with him. From my perspective, this point adds adds another solid reason behind Scar's lack of cubs. It wasn't just an ideological issue on his end. It also makes practical sense that potential mates simply wouldn't have chosen him. When I look at the way lionesses select partners in both real biology and Disney's depiction, Scar obviously wasn't offering the qualities that mattered most. And to really drive this explanation home, the final layer to Scar's story drives the final nail in his coffin, the part that goes beyond ideology or pride dynamics and digs into who Scar was beneath the bitterness. And that was simply the fact that Scar did not trust anyone, and that lack of trust shaped every relationship he attempted to form. He kept his distance from the lionesses, the hyenas, Rafiki, the circle of life, and even the concept of his own future. Every alliance he built relied on manipulation rather than genuine connection, making true intimacy impossible. And without that ability to even potentially connect with another, reproduction becomes a lot less likely. This theory closely connects to the first, but with one key distinction. Instead of focusing on Scar's ideology or moral code, it highlights his inability to emotionally connect or form meaningful bonds with anyone. Both theories overlap in logic, but this one emphasizes the internal barriers that made intimacy, and therefore reproduction, unlikely for Scar in the first place. And what likely caused this? A major contributor was Scar's deeply rooted identity as a loner. Throughout his life, he consistently positioned himself outside the pride, emotionally, socially, and even symbolically. He likely felt overshadowed by Mufasa, the brother who became king, and that comparison fed into a growing sense of being cheated out of the life he believed that he deserved. Not only that, but if you buy into the live-action movie Mufasa, it actually adds on another layer, revealing that Scar had feelings for Sarabi, but she chose Mufasa and they ended up together and had a son, Simba. Scar's jealousy over Sarabi choosing Mufasa was a significant part of his bitterness towards his brother, and likely further shaped his self-image into loner by default, which just reinforced the belief that he was always second choice. And I mean, even in some of the earliest drafts of his character, his original name was Taka, which literally meant trash. It's no wonder Scar built an identity around feeling unwanted, overlooked, and dismissed. With a self-image shaped by rejection and resentment, it's unsurprising that he never developed the emotional grounding needed to trust, bond, or form the kind of connection required for mating. It's actually kind of interesting how this loner identity showed up in small, consistent ways as well, through his dark attitude, his sarcastic responses, and the way he relied on clever remarks as a shield. Some people see these as signs of confidence, but I kind of see them as quiet indications of self-protection. His personality comes across as a defensive structure designed to prevent emotional exposure. When I look at Scar's dialogue, body language, and narrative framing, I see a character who's deeply isolated. To me, Scar reads like someone who has been on the outside for so long that connection feels threatening. And if connection feels threatening, mating becomes unlikely. And when you combine all three of these theories, a unified picture forms. Scar ideologically rejected the idea of legacy, biologically failed to attract the lionesses, and psychologically could not bond with anyone. He didn't avoid mating because he lacked opportunity, he avoided it because every aspect of his worldview was incompatible with what was required to have a mate or cubs. From my perspective, he was set up for failure from the beginning. I know I say this a lot, but I truly don't believe anyone is born evil. When you look at what shapes a person or a character, a lot of it is how they interpret and handle the environment and circumstances that they deal with. I do believe Scar always had the ability to be different, but his choice in how he went about things, including what he let define him, was the ultimate cause of his downfall, and ultimately dying alone without a legacy. It's sad to think about, but I do think it's an important reminder that shows us just how much a character's inner world can shape their entire destiny. But as always, I want to know what you think. Which theory do you think explains Scar the best? Is he a disruptor who rejected legacy, a failed alpha who couldn't attract the lionesses, or a wounded mind who couldn't trust enough to bond? Or maybe there's another reason? Whatever you think, definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing all of your different perspectives.